Welcome everyone to our June board meeting for the Children's Trust of Alachua County. Great to have you all with us this afternoon. We've been together, many of us, all afternoon for a workshop, but we will now move into our formal board meeting. As a reminder for all of us and to ground us in the work, the mission of the Children's Trust of Alachua County is to fund and support a coordinated system of community services that allows all youth and families to thrive. Any member of the public wishing to be heard who's with us here today shall come forward to the podium at the appropriate time and introduce yourself to the board. Members will be recognized and have 3 minutes to speak on a single subject matter or to address the current motion on the floor. And the clerk of the trust will serve as our official timekeeper. Please do be reminded that our policy prohibits any solicitation, unplanned funding requests from the podium. And should a member of the public wish to make a funding request, please do contact Executive Director Kiner or staff for consideration. The clerk will now call the roll and verify that we have at least 5 members of the trust who are physically present for today's meeting. And as a reminder to me, as well as all of us, please do speak directly into your microphone.
Here.
Thank you, Member Tina Certain. Chair Mary Chance.
Here.
Vice Chair Ken Cornell. Dr. Nancy Hart is appearing virtually. Dr. Maggie Labarda, member. Dr. Kamala Patton, member. Honorable Judge Philip A. Penna.
Here.
Lee Pinkeson, treasurer. Melissa Walker, member.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 5 in attendance.
Thank you so much. We can now get started by moving on to approval of the agenda, including any revisions. And this does include the consent agenda, which is items 1 through 7 in the meeting packet.
Madam Chair, if there are no changes to the agenda, I would move approval of the consent agenda as well as a regular agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will move forward with this agenda, but do we have any, I guess I should have asked for this before, any comments on the agenda, Marcia? Okay, all right. Well, we do have time now, before we get into the meat of our meeting, bless you, for any general public comments. This is your first opportunity for any comments from folks who are with us today. And again, sure, please come forward. Yes, just please start with your name and if you represent an organization.
Now? Am I good now?
Yes.
Is it too loud? Okay.
You're good.
My name's Lee Scott. I'm the Director of Community Outreach for Family Promise of Gainesville. You'll have to forgive me if I have to catch my breath. I broke my rib yesterday in a freak gardening accident. But I wanted to come talk to you all today. For years, I've worked alongside the unhoused and justice-impacted communities right here in Alachua County. First spending 5 years at Grace Marketplace and then serving as a founding board member and Director of Community Outreach for Released Reentry. This past December, I moved over to Family Promise because I wanted to take the exact same systems building approach I used at my previous stops and apply it to what is far and away the most pressing, heartbreaking issue Gainesville faces. That's family homelessness. For far too long as a community, we've put families on the back burner because we're more distracted by visible elements of homelessness. But make no mistake, these families are everywhere. The latest McKinney-Vento numbers have that number at about 1,200 family members experiencing homelessness. That number skyrockets to around 2,000 when you factor in the folks that don't meet the strict HUD requirements of being homeless. We make up stories to comfort ourselves. It's not my problem. They should have worked harder. Some other agency will deal with it. Or worst of all, we spend millions treating the minor symptoms of poverty while ignoring the actual cure. Let's be clear, housing and financial security are the absolute cure for all the other issues we try to fix. At Family Promise, we don't just talk about the cure, we deliver it. Last year alone, we served 155 families representing 475 individual neighbors. The most important number is 94% of our families remain successfully housed after 1 year. And our team is led by people with lived experience. Because of that, we don't have bureaucracy. We lead with trauma-informed care and a profound sense of urgency. The community recognizes that. When St. Francis closed down, we were the first call made by the Continuum of Care, the county, and the city. They asked us to get 10 families housed, and we did it immediately. Within 2 weeks, those families didn't just have roofs over their heads, they had furniture, groceries, and direct connection to ongoing services and healthcare. But right now, we're forced to say no far too often. As I stand before you today, we have 362 families on our wait list. For every victory, barriers inherent in our current system crush another family. Just last Friday, I had a woman come into my office fleeing an abusive situation. Because of rigid institutional requirements, she did not qualify for shelter at Peaceful Paths. I helped her get some food, reworked her resume, but at the end of the day, the mother and her 4-month-old baby left my office to go find another dark parking lot to sleep in their car. We can shift this. We must shift this. This work is incredibly hard, and with the support of the Children's Trust, we can get more case managers and work through that list and fix the problem once and for all in Gainesville.
Wishes for healing. Okay, we'll have opportunities later to address motions on the floor, but any other general comments for the items not on the agenda? Okay. Chair's report. For me, 2 things. First and foremost, I wanted to thank the staff and the board for your heartfelt condolences on the loss of my sister last month. It really meant a lot that you all have taken the time to let me know that you care, and I appreciate very much your condolences and kindness. Second, in our workshop earlier today, is this not working? Is this any better? Okay, wasn't me. In our workshop earlier today, we heard from a number of supporters of peak literacy about some potential challenges or changes with the funding model for peak. And a lot of us individually received heartfelt letters from parents and volunteers. There was one additional that, rather than come to our individual addresses, came to the trust, and the copy of that letter, which is in the same, kind of general vein as others that you received, but this copy is here for you as well, the one that came to the trust. I think that's all for me. Madam Executive Director, if you could give us your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start with last week. You all are probably aware that the special legislative session was held last week. The House and the Senate voted, both houses, overwhelmingly to put a ballot resolution up that we, the citizens, will have the opportunity to vote on in November that changes how property taxes are collected. I want to walk you through the proposal, and I'm sure that Bob is here, so if I step into anything that I shouldn't, he will correct me. Because I've also been informed that we, the trust, we can inform, we cannot educate, nor can we advocate. So we will have to be very careful how we communicate the proposed ballot resolution. I am going to be holding a meeting, I'm calling it a leadership briefing on Monday. An invite will go out this evening to all of our partners/providers that we are currently funding, and I will be sharing much of the same information with them during the meetings, and there will be, I think there are 3 that we're going to schedule because, of course, we wouldn't be able to get everybody in this room. But the meeting will be for the executive directors and CEOs of all of our funded partners to walk through what the potential changes could mean for our budget, and then to talk about some positive things, some of the things we have upcoming in this new fiscal year that kicks off in October. So you all have a handout. I would like to just walk you through it very briefly. So the proposal that will require 60% approval from the voters says the homestead exemption will increase from $50,000 to $150,000 in fiscal year 27-28. That's part 1. Part 2, the homestead exemption will increase to $250,000 in fiscal year 28-29. And that the annual property valuation increases for non-homestead properties will be capped at 5%, reduced from the current 10%. The first 2 are relatively, I think, easy to understand. Basically, in fiscal year 27-28, that will net us a $2 million revenue loss. 28-29, we will be looking at a $3 million revenue loss. That will change what we do in that we will have to come back, look at priorities, and make some significant, potentially make some significant cuts. That's information, right? The annual property valuation, I wanted to just give you an example of that one because that was the one that kind of hung me up a little bit. So the example that I have here says, if a current taxable value on a property, and Commissioner Cornell, welcome. He will understand this probably better than I do. If a taxable value on a property is $500,000 and the market value increases by 15%, it would then move up to $575,000. Our current cap means that the taxable value of that home, of that property, instead of it being the 575, it would be 550. Everybody following me? That's the 10% increase. With what's being recommended, or not recommended, with what's being potentially capped, we would be looking at $525,000 as the cap on what we would be able to receive. So you can see, instead of potentially receiving $550,000, we would be looking at receiving 500, or we would be looking at the taxable income off of 520, thank you, off of 525. When you compound that over years, that's how we get to the significant reductions, right? Is this doomsday? I don't think that it's doomsday, but I do think we need to be aware and we need to be thinking about what happens if the ballot initiative passes. Questions on that?
Commissioner Cornell, is there anything you would like to add from the?
I have lots of things to say.
And Commissioner Cornell, let us remember that we can inform.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Just came from a joint city-county meeting, sorry I'm late. The county is having a discussion about this on tomorrow. The city's having a discussion about this on Thursday. I guess the trust is having a discussion about this today. You know, I think from my perspective, I want to either have a discussion about this or not have a discussion about this on November 5th. And ultimately, I think that's where we are as a county. We're going to proceed with our budget, and we'll figure out what the voters do on November 4th. I think I missed the workshop, but at the Finance Committee meeting, I know that the potential impact is somewhere around $3 million.
For the second year, when
For
it
the
gets up
second
to
year.
the 250, $2 million
Yeah,
for
and
year
so,
one.
I guess from my perspective, this is a next budget cycle discussion, and it's a, where are we going with it this year? Until we know, we don't know.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot with peanut
Well,
butter.
that's okay.
Dr. Hart?
Hi, I have a question. What is the difference between informing and educating, which is not okay?
That would be for our attorney.
The way, the statute is not very clear. The way our office has come out with it is you can answer questions, but you really can't advocate for anything. So you can't be aggressive in your education. Say anything as a private citizen. So if you're in a group of people and you're there as a member of the board, if you just take off your board hat and say, okay, I'm not speaking as a member of the board, but as a private citizen, this is what I think. But the board itself cannot issue any paper, it cannot take any ads out, it cannot do anything, even aggressively as a matter of education. People ask us questions, we can answer. We can inform them of the changes and what that's going to mean. The board can discuss the implications among itself because, of course, it's going to impact board operations. But you can't tell people, suggest to people how they should vote. What I said in the last meeting is the law clearly impacts counties, municipalities, and school districts. Where the trust falls and other independent districts is somewhat up in the air because they also include other political subdivisions. And in Florida, the concept of a political subdivision is kind of loosey-goosey depending on what you're talking about. And in this situation, we've got a very aggressive Attorney General and Commission on Election Integrity that might take a position different than we take if we get too aggressive with that, saying we're not a political subdivision. So until there's clarity on that, I urge being as conservative as possible on that. But as far as informing, I think you're safe answering questions and discussing as a board what this means. I think you can take a very low-key position on, as if you're invited to talk about the implications, take a low-key position on, well, by our calculations, what we said at the last board member meeting was, this is what this is going to mean. But I don't think you can get into the nitty-gritty about programs that would be cut, having to determine, redetermine priorities. That's all for the future that we can't really talk about. And the legislature passed this particular law, Florida section 106.113, in an effort to keep local governments from talking about election items. So I hope I answered your question as clearly as I could. I know I didn't, but I hope I did, because it's not real clear to me or to our office where the line is drawn.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, and again, this is obviously not anything we're taking any action on today, but thank you for that and for your time in Tallahassee last week.
Certainly, and I do thank you for bringing that up. Again, I cannot express any more highly just how grateful I am that we have the Griffin Group as our governmental relations folks. They walked me up and down the Capitol yet again last week, and we were able to see either staff or our legislative delegation. I think as they say, the horse was out of the stable, but we were still able to see them make our case, and then hopefully now when folks come back in district, we'll be able to talk to them about next year. next year's legislative session. So my second item, I really just wanted to highlight that we held our family evictions and housing stability convening here at the Trust. Want to thank staff, Christy Couture, Darlena, Amali, and everybody involved in putting that together. Certainly all of our partners, some of them are here. They were here, everybody was engaged. And then I also want to thank the Bright Community Trust, CEO Frank Wells, and Director of Strategic Community Initiatives, Tracy Blue. The Bright Community Trust has been doing some of this work for a number of years, even right before COVID in the Central Florida area. And so they came to the meeting and they were able to share some of the strategies from other communities related to what we are facing here in our community. So thank you to the Bright Community Trust. And then thank you everybody for being frank and candid. You all are going to hear a little bit more about that. Christy's going to present our recommendations here shortly, but I did want to highlight that meeting and the fact that we felt like it went really, really well, and perhaps the beginning of some things. That concludes my report.
All right, next up, we have proposed resolution number 2026-03, board policy for private donations.
2026-03 Board Policy for Private Donations.
Any discussion? I actually have a question, though. I remember what prompted this was a donation for, what was the amount?
For $1,000.
For $1,000 unrestricted, and that's one scenario. But what I'm not sure we have entertained, and perhaps is a larger donation, private donation, that could come through. So at a certain threshold, staff saying, here's how we want to use this in existing programs, I think makes sense. But I would imagine if it got to higher numbers, there should be some board authority and a process. And I don't think we entertain that in this proposal.
You want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, we actually did move through and address that concern, and what we brought forth was the recommendation and proposal that for amounts that were unrestricted, that are $20,000 or less, that staff would, and leadership would have the authority to make decisions about what they would utilize the funding for. Anything that exceeds that amount would be brought forth to the board for decision-making. And I believe that that should be included in an additive section in the resolution and proposal.
So we didn't print it. Well, that would be our recommendation.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is including a threshold amount of 20,000 as for private contribution to be at the discretion of the director and staff to apply to programs, currently program priorities of the trust in alignment with our strategic plan. Above 20,000, there would be a process where the funds come to the board for a discussion and process. So that is the amendment to the proposal in front of us. Any other discussion?
Hi, Leah Gelling, Peak Literacy. Question, is the trust going to be actively trying to engage in receiving community funds outside of, the current funding?
I appreciate the concern behind that question. This was not solicited. It was, And I don't know that we've had that discussion, because I could understand where that would be challenging. But it's interesting, when we were walking through this draft, we thought there could be citizens, I know we're talking far into the future, but who, if the law passes and homestead exemption changes, choose to donate directly. But we have not had any discussion about actively soliciting contributions.
Not from the community. However, the trust is going to be going after national grants, right? So that we can leverage our dollars with their dollars. And we may be coming directly to specific providers, right, to do
Work
the
together.
work. Yeah, so that's really the avenue that we've been thinking about, and I believe the board had those discussions about us pulling in grants, but nothing local
Local.
grants.
Okay, yeah,
national.
that would just be my request, is that if that's going to be done, that we're already competing for the same funds and trying to go after businesses to donate to the trust that now we're competing against. It would be great to just allow the nonprofits to advocate for themselves within the community and our business partners for funding directly. So, yeah, thank you.
Molly, you brought up about the $20,000 threshold. What difference does it make if somebody makes a donation, no matter what size, if it goes for unrestricted, it should just go into the general budget, and we should handle it as a part of the money that we get through the budgeting process. It shouldn't really make a difference what amount it is. Where that really distinguishes something is when it's restricted. So I don't really think it's necessary to put some sort of amount on it.
So, in the original proposal and resolution that we were bringing forward, we did not necessarily address that. That was an amendment. That's why you do not see that in the printed packet of materials that is provided, that section. Really and truly, the policy and the resolution were drawn up to ensure our, provider community and our community partners that if there was funding that came in from private donations, that we would be responsible in utilizing them. And if a donor was so kind as to, give us funds, they would know that if they had a restriction on it, for instance, for a specific initiative, that we would, of course, follow through, and it would be, it would be considered special and a restricted utilization for those sorts of initiatives. In general, if does not meet this board's desire to have that clausature and phrasature in there about the threshold of the $20,000, then that is how the board so chooses.
May I continue?
Yes.
It would seem that that's a deviation from the way our budgeting process is handled if and certainly nothing against staff because they do a wonderful job, but that gives them $20,000 that they can do something with. It would seem to me that the budget, it should just go into the general fund, and we handle that like we do the whole budgeting process, no matter what the amount is.
I think
don't
the
think
time,
that-
I think the timeliness is what I had in mind, of the expectation from that donor of Marcia being able to say what happened with those funds. But I hear what you're saying. Molly?
Well, part of the addendum and part of the proposal for the resolution in general do delineate that the funding would be utilized for programmatic, endeavors. Could be something that we are already involved in, or initiatives that we're already involved in, but it would not be utilized for something such as operations or complete discretion of staff. It would be directed towards our, major programmatic endeavors and other grants and aid and community initiatives.
I understand Lee's point, and I could see that. I was there for the check presentation and the whole conversation of, so what would you like, to do with the funds? And I think responsiveness to what happened with the funds, and what I was thinking. Any other thoughts on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you mentioned the dollar amount, I was thinking, when I read through it initially, I thought the same thing, but I was thinking it's so rare that someone would give us money, right? I like that they already had a donor restriction paragraph in there, but, so I don't know if I could land between you and Lee. I don't recall what your spending authority is, Marcia, for something, just an expenditure where you don't have to come to the board, that you can just, is it 50,000 or is it? I'd like the $20,000 limit for, I mean, it would go in general fund, but it could be something where someone could give an unsolicited donation to the trust, right? And we could be in the midst of, say it could be some need that you know that is up where we didn't have the money in the general fund, where we've already met, and it would be another month or whatever before we meet, and we could, if it was under the 20,000, Marcia could make and the staff could make the determination it was within our strategic plan. But use the funds for that particular immediate need. Kind of, I'm thinking about like the emergent needs or emergency needs or something like that. Maybe it could be considered like that. That's kind of how I was looking at it, but I like the $20,000 threshold.
Yeah, but I'm
guardrails,
you know,
but I see-
backpedaling on myself here and thinking, we also don't want to have a whole other process either unnecessarily. So there's the scenario of a business, local business coming in with $1,000 completely unsolicited. And then there's the scenario of Mackenzie Scott finding us and dropping, you know, $1 million, or if we had a shortfall in our budget. And that's definitely where I see going into the budget and alignment. But I just was wondering about, do we need to possibly, I don't know, possibly have some other way of thinking about private funds? But I'm okay with, you know, rescinding the change and going back to the original proposal.
Madam Chair, I don't remember, does it say that it's going to go to programs, right? It's exclusively to programs?
Opposed to operations or admin?
Yes, it goes exclusive, okay, that's fine.
Okay, so,
I would recommend that it just goes into the budget, that, what the original proposal.
support the program work of, okay.
Without the $20,000 threshold.
Second? Any other discussion?
Unrestricted unless the donor restricts it.
Correct. Okay, any other discussion? Great to have hive mind. Thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Told you it was clear cut.
Okay. Now we have special guests from Purvis Gray, and I'm going to turn it over to Molly in a moment, but I do want to introduce them. Ron Whiteside, and Heather Donovan. Is Heather with you as well? Purvis Gray for our annual audit presentation. And for the benefit of our guests, our fiscal year ends September 30th each year. So this is for the fiscal year ending September 30th of 2025.
Good afternoon. Molly, I don't know if you have anything you want to say before I jump into it?
I'll go ahead and follow behind you after you've spoken.
All right, sounds good. Well, good to see you all again. Ron Whiteside's partner with Purvis Gray and Company. We're your outside independent auditors, and as you indicated, Heather, who runs the field work of the job, is here with me today. Today is the culmination of the audit process for the fiscal year end September 30th, 2025. You're required under Florida law to get this outside audit each year. We've been your auditors since your inception. Today we're wrapping up this year's audit. What I'm going to do is talk from the book itself. I think everybody should have a copy of it in front of you. We have some extras in the room if we didn't get one to everybody. But I'm not going to take a lot of your time, although I'm happy to answer questions if I don't cover something that you have an interest in. And I know you haven't had an opportunity to review these reports. We're trying to get them out by the state's June 30th deadline. So they are in draft form today. I don't anticipate any significant changes from these drafts. I think there may be some verbiage editing that happens in the management's discussion and analysis, but other than that, I think this is essentially final form of what we'll issue. If that were not to be the case, we would certainly make the board aware of that, but that's my anticipation. We have issued, now in the front of this report, to start with on page 1 is the auditor's opinion. It's unmodified, which is what you want. That's the highest form of assurance the auditor can give. That means it's a clean report with no exceptions or caveats. What follows the opinion is called management's discussion and analysis. And management has written this, and it has some verbiage about why the numbers changed between years. So if you're going to spend just a little bit of time with the audit, that's probably the best place to do it. And it's also the only place where we have comparative two-year information. So when it comes to looking at the numbers, which we'll do here for a minute, that's where I'm going to focus it. So if you look at page 6 of the report, what we have there is a statement of net position for the year. So this is the balance sheet, lists the assets and obligations of the trust as of year end. And you can see we've got a column for 2025 and a prior year column and a variance column. Starting with the assets, you'll see total assets are actually down just over $1 million from the prior year. That decline in the current asset category, which is cash, that's what the current assets are. The non-current assets of $2 million, that's this building. So those are essentially the only assets of significance. The decline in the cash balance was because this year's spending for program services exceeded. We'll see that in fund balance as well as we go down the list of assets and obligations and equity. The total liabilities are at $4 million as of year end. Approximately 2.9 of that is accounts payable related to ongoing provider contracts that were not reimbursed as of year end, so they're payables at year end. And then approximately 1.2 million of long-term liabilities. You don't have any debt, but this is the net pension obligation and the OPEB obligations that the employees, related to benefits that the employees have. I think the mic, I don't know if I'm getting away from it or if it's just hopping, okay. Okay, all right. Right. Yeah, I'll bend over a little more. So the difference between the assets and liabilities is the net position. And at year end, you'll see, like we saw with the cash balance, net position has decreased approximately $1.5 million due to utilizing some of the funds during the current expenditures. We can see the income statement on the following page, page 7. This income statement is a little different in that it starts with expenses. So at the top of the page, we have expenses. You can see there's a 30% or a $2.5 million increase in program service expenses. So that's the actual cost related to providing the services, trust funds. And there was about a 16% or $250,000 increase in administrative costs. So that's administrative payroll primarily and benefits that drove that increase. There are about $400,000 of operating grants. So these are grants from third-party entities to help support operations. And then we get to the revenues, which of course are primarily property tax related. $10.1 million this year, which is a 7% increase from prior year. You did do a millage rate decrease during this fiscal year, but of course the valuation growth increase provided the net approximately 7% increase in revenues. The other major revenue is just investment earnings at about $765,000. So again, for the year, we see that negative $1.5 million change in fund balance with $11 million of total equity at the end of the year. Again, $2 million of that is this building, so there's about $9 million in available funds. One of the metrics we look at sometimes is we try to relate that to annual expenditures. So it's about 8 months of your operating expenditures in fund balance. Okay. What follows the numbers are the notes, more detailed financial statements. All of those are customary. There's nothing additional in there that I really want to cover with you. If you will turn to page 40 of the report, Of course, part of what we do in an audit is we examine your processes and procedures that have a financial impact. So we do have two recommendations to improve processes and controls. The first one deals with bank reconciliations. So the bank account was not reconciled in as timely a manner as we would recommend. So best practice is that it gets reconciled within about 60 days of the end of the month. We weren't meeting that during much of the year. Now, current finance staff was not on board during most of that time. And you might remember last year we had some issues with the bank reconciliations as well. We did assist you with reconciling some of those items during the year. But the timing of when all that happened was toward the end of this current fiscal year. So throughout the audit period, the bank reconciliations weren't being done timely. And so that's why this comment remains. We did also make some corrections to help staff with that. And going forward, if there's any more guidance that staff needs or wants from us, we're happy to try and work through that with them. The second comment deals with the financial close. So ideally, your auditors really aren't involved with making adjustments to your financial numbers during the closing process. We did assist with a number of adjustments. There is a separate letter that was handed out along with the report that one of the things in there lists the adjustments if you're interested. But some of them dealt with cash, investments, pooled cash, which can be a technical area, and some of the other areas that we assisted with. Again, in defense of your staff, they were new, they weren't here during this period, and so Molly was tasked with working on things that she was not part of the actual initial accounting for, which is always tough. But that is something that there still remains an opportunity to improve on going forward. So that's the presentation. If there's anything I didn't cover that you would like to, I'm happy to do so.
Questions?
No, great. Glad to see an unqualified report. I know Molly has taken corrective actions on both the items. Glad you're here, Molly. Really glad. And I would move approval of the audit.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All right, and I know Molly's eager to share a little bit in her management response. Yep, you're done? Molly started September 15th. She had 2 weeks before the year closed.
I mean, the point is, I asked Molly, how quickly are we doing bank recs and closing the financials? And she said 10 days to 15 days. And that's kind of best practices. And then that's where we need to be as of June of the following year, following the audit. So, yeah. So thank you, Molly.
Yes.
I just want to thank Ron and Heather. You all continue to come in, and it hasn't always been pleasant. And when I say that, not meaning you all haven't been pleasant, but I just mean you all coming in, staff has changed, you all trying to figure out, okay, here's where we start, here's where you end. So I just want to say thank you to you all for your patience with our team, for your thoughtful analysis, and for, ensuring that we understand what we need to understand in order to be better. So thank you, Heather. Thank you, Ron. And then lastly, board, I just want to, again, thank our current CFO. Mary hit the nail on the head. Molly came in September 15th and literally started changing systems, figuring out what hadn't been done, what needed to be done. And she has provided great leadership to the trust in terms of our finances. So Molly, we are grateful for your leadership. Thank you for everything that you have done. Thank you for the systems you have put in place so that this time next year, when our auditors arrive on scene, they will see that we have taken care of all of these issues. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, under new business, we have, this is where Molly gets to take the floor, the 26-27 proposed budget. Molly Greenwald?
Thank you so much. So, thank you. So I'm going to keep it brief. I'm just waiting for O'Malley to pull up the visuals for everyone. And then, of course, we're open for questions. Yes, it's. Well, I guess I could just commence by saying good afternoon to the board members, staff, community partners, and members of the public. Today, I'm presenting the proposed budget for the Children's Trust of Alachua County for the upcoming fiscal year, FY 2027. This budget reflects our commitment to responsible stewardship of public resources while advancing our mission to improve outcomes for children, youth, and families in Alachua County. The budget before you has been developed through a deliberate process that balances community needs, strategic priorities, financial sustainability, and accountability for taxpayers. This is just a quick kind of snapshot here. I always like to have visuals and dashboards that just go over the different classifications of the types of fund balance, our policies, and how they relate to budget. So it's kind of just like a quick fact glossary, we will say. As we developed this proposed budget, we focused on 3 primary objectives, and that was, again, to reiterate, maximizing community impact, maintaining strong fiscal stewardship, ensuring long-term financial sustainability. So the proposed budget maintains a balanced fiscal posture, funds operating reserves, and directs the majority of resources toward children, youth, families, and community-serving programs. As you can see, the totality of the proposed budget is around $12.3 million, which is comprised of 9.3 directed towards programs, grants, and aids, and other community services, with a core operating budget, which is comprised of operating and personnel, of about 3.2. This is also, again, just giving a snapshot where we're kind of having a discussion of some of what we were able to do with our resources. And as you can see, the largest portion of our budget is dedicated directly to and programs and services that support the children and youth. And this aligns with the Trust's strategic priorities and are designed to address identified community needs while promoting measurable outcomes. Overarchingly, you will see a difference from prior years, and the reason for this is that we have just taken a different approach. It is not that the trust has more money or less money than prior. The difference is that we were very deliberate in our procedure and our process going through budget and budgeted for the expenditures that we were predicted and we were going to spend. We did not budget all of our position because in prior years we had utilized that for fund balance and the continuation, or utilized fund balance for continual funding of programs, and we have changed our mentality. I would say we are utilizing our money and our funds in the highest and most transparent, transparent level possible, while still maintaining a strong fiscal stewardship, but also that we are ensuring we're safe so that we can continue to provide these services to the children, families, and community in the county for the long term. Here's just a quick snapshot, year over year, from the prior year amended. So we are very happy to say that we were able to reduce operating costs and personnel and non-personnel operating costs significantly, which is wonderful as that redirects the majority of our funds towards our initiatives. It also reduces our administrative burden to 10%, which is in line with our common Surratt organizations and sister CSEs and would be in the gold standard. Again, just to continue forward, this is the same comparison. It just gives you the year over year. Another note and additional operating savings were generated from reduced reliance on outsourced professional services and unutilized peer operations. So essentially, we have been able to make cuts without compromising our capacity and our ability to operate as an organization. In fact, we've actually augmented our staff capacity and still been able to be deliberate and direct our resources where they're needed. Again, this also even takes into account our new board policy that we passed, which keeps our operating reserve, our reserves to 3 months of operating expenditures. And this is precisely for the reasons that we've been discussing, to ensure that we have long-term financial and sustainability, and we're able to continue to provide the services infinitum. We've already discussed administrative burden reduction. We can continue to move forward. Essentially, once again, the thing that I'd just like to highlight overarchingly is that we have directed the majority of our resources towards our strategic priorities, and this has allowed for augmented programmatic allocations and capacity to fund our initiatives, while still ensuring that we maintain a balanced budget and that we are being fiscally responsible and accountable in the way that we're operating and we proceed. You will see that one of the reasons that we were able to augment our programmatic capabilities is from unexpended money that was returned from unexpended program allocations and savings from FY 2025. And moving forward, sorry, I have to stand up because I am short. And if I'm looking at this, then I have the opposite problem of our auditors and their microphones. That, again, essentially what we are stating here is that we are committed to utilizing our funds in the best way possible, which is by directing them to our community resources. All of the initiatives and support, we are augmented. They're in alignment with our new mission and strategic goals, and we were able to do this, for instance, to add back $2.56 million into community assistance and programmatic endeavors, as opposed to having that wrapped into our operational costs. And the reason for this was that we were able to reduce our operational costs and increase savings without any harm or reduction to program allocations that have been assigned to specific goals. No need to keep beating a dead horse really here, so I'm just going to keep moving forward. And again, essentially, this would be saying the same thing. All of these items are framed in a strategic, deliberate manner to ensure that we are doing our due diligence and that we are supporting what we are here to support and the causes that have the most impact. Again, though, our revised budget does strengthen our service capacity while maintaining fiscal discipline and sustainability. Overarchingly, again, here's just a snapshot of all the things I said in a more concise manner, so I could have just fast-forwarded to this point here. But overarchingly, the remainder of this goes into the specific programs and the goals and the strategic priorities of where we have elected or proposed to allocate the funding, and the breakdown as to where that is directed. Yeah, for each goal. And that's detailed program schedules from the budget book are on the following slides. But one thing I would just like to say is, onto that. Here, you can just go ahead and see, as outlined and in alignment with our strategic plan, we have allotted these amounts of money, which have been allocated to these grants, aids, and programmatic support, and the details which can be found, again, going through this long, drawn-out process, but exciting process of reprioritizing, realigning our strategic initiatives to help better serve our community. This is where we have landed, or we're proposing that we land. And again, this discusses our items and what things would be funding. Here's again, breakdown with our new goal addition for number 4. And as you can see, This is what would make up the totality of the amounts that are allocated towards programmatic initiatives or special initiatives, community engagement. So, yes, so, and the COLA for the providers. This is also inclusive of the fact that we have allowed for a 3% COLA for our provider partners, just as we are in favor of offering and providing cost of living adjustments to those who work in, for our personnel, that we feel it is the same, and we should do the same for our provider partners, because they also are personnel who are undergoing the same conditions that we are. So all of this includes the COLA adjustments, and that has been specifically allotted to staff members that are directly working on services related to the programs of the children that are funded by the Children's Trust.
Thank you, Molly. If I may interject, there had been a bit of discussion about whether we should give the COLAs or not. And as a staff, we felt that if we were going to receive a cost of living increase, it was important that the personnel who are directly tied to the programs also receive them. I don't know about you all, but I'm spending a lot more in gas. I'm spending a lot more at Publix. Life is lifing. And if we want to continue to keep high-quality personnel working with our partner organizations, then at minimum, we felt that we needed to provide the COLA adjustment on personnel. There's a change, though. In prior years, it was a COLA on top of their, what do you call it, Molly? Their correct, their total budget, and that is what we changed this year. It was only for specific personnel in each program. So we do want you to know that we thought about it, and we tried to ensure that we looked at it in the most fiscally,
Fiscally responsible
There you
and
go.
conservative manner.
Thank you.
Where is the Alachua County Reads amount? How much of that,
That's fund balance. That's not in our,
not in our operating budget, but we are funding $550,000 for Alachua County Reads? And is that, I didn't see that, is that in here?
So it's coming from unrestricted and unassigned fund balance because that is in line with gold standard in our policies because it's a strategic initiative. So it is not included in these programmatic allotments or in the operating costs, but in the overall total budgeted amount, it is factored in there. So
And what are we spending that on? How much, what are we spending the 550 on?
Alachua County Reads, so
How are we allocating that money within Alachua County Reads?
not in this budget, because
At Thursday's meeting?
correct,
Okay, got it.
that's not in this budget. Have a say in how the
Right.
money is spent, yes.
But it goes to them, and they have their own budget, is that correct?
Correct. And they can share with you their budget for 2020.
So
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to highlight that.
Back to that one. I appreciate how this is bucketed out with the strategic priorities, and I don't remember seeing the emergent needs and sponsorships total like that. It's helpful, I think. We see the $1,000 here, $500 here for sponsorships, but I think it's helpful for everybody to know.
Sponsorship for $60,000, was it not? And what is it this year?
The same. Right.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we decreased emergent needs. So I think we had 100,000 allocated for that, and we've reduced that to 75 and kept the sponsorships at 60,000.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Done, Molly?
If I'm allowed to say, yeah. In closing. Oh, no, go ahead. You can. Basically, the recommended motion at this time would be, we are recommending the approval of the FY 2027 proposed budget as presented, including operating appropriations, program allocations, capital project funding, and reserve funding.
Have a recommendation?
Madam Chair, I have questions,
Yes.
and I apologize. If you look on our agenda, we have in our information, for information only, and I know I'm jumping this, but it's part of the budget, and all these things are gonna have an impact on the budget. So, there's an early childhood learning collaborative work group update. And the question is, what are we gonna do about funding for that, as well as the Alachua County Reads? We know that it's 550,000 right now, which, you know, we had the discussion, there were a lot of people from Peak here earlier. There's that too, and then we have, you know, on old business, there's the Family of Fiction and Housing Stability Convening discussion that's gonna take place. And so I guess my question to staff is, what are we doing with those? Because it's not really factored into the budget, because we haven't really discussed that. And as far as the Family Eviction and Housing Stability Convening, I know that our original charge was to convene a group of stakeholders to come up with recommendations to present to the city and the county. And I know what we got back in our packet, and I wasn't sure whether the recommendation was that the trust fund the navigators, or whether it go as a recommendation to the city and the county that we ask them to fund the navigators, and we would provide the housing through the resource centers, that they will have a place to, there would be a functioning place for them to work, number one. And then number two, I didn't see anything, you know, I know that from previously what we've heard is it has been focused primarily, housing has been focused primarily on single individuals. And if that is the case, I did not see in our recommendation that we asked the city and county to make a priority of families who are in housing trouble. And that, I think that ought to be, we ought to lead with that, and then ask that the city and the county fund navigators 2, 4, whatever the number was, and see what happens. Because the city and the county, while I know that they have their budget difficulties, we only have X number of dollars, which pales in comparison to what is available in the city and the county. And I know that at least the county, and I believe the city as well, have programs already for homelessness. And having been involved in the initial discussions back in 2002, I know what the financial implications were in 2002 and what they are now, and it's much greater than what it is. And I think that if we begin that with our limited budget, we will consume a tremendous amount of our budget in housing. And certainly, while it is a noble effort, I think it would be best suited for the city and the county to take that under their wing. And I would hope that Ken could help with that, because I think that our contribution as far as the resource center is a major one, because those resource centers that we've established has been a major investment. And what it allows not just with housing, but with all the other services that people can learn about through the, by coming to the resource center. I just think it can be a very productive thing that we are, that we are providing. So I know that wasn't the recommendation. I know that this is future discussion, but all of them are very critical to our budget discussion. So, as a board, I would hope that we would take, the recommendations for the evictions, the housing component, and I know what staff recommended, but I would hope that our recommendation would be, number one, that we make families a priority for funding in the future, because you don't just help one person, you help numerous people. And then number two, that the city and county look into funding the navigators that we have seen are important, important assets as far as helping with this problem, and that we provide a place for them to work. So my question was initially, how much of these other two things
Yes.
would be that we're talking about?
Maybe also related to that, the next two items down on the agenda, the tentative budget, the resolution 05.
Right, we have to come back to those.
Yeah.
So, Matt, and I, also Nancy has her hand up. So let me see here. The collaborative, so under your, for your information section, I think we've talked about the Alachua County Reads. Unless you all change something, $550,000 out of fund balance will go to Alachua County Reads for next year. Okay, so that is not, it's in the overall budget, yes, but not in the budget you see where we're specifically talking about our programs currently. The Early Childhood Learning Collaborative Work Group has been working for almost a year. They are specifically, they have two kind of parallel tracks. One of them talks or deals specifically with special needs. There is probably going to be a dollar that will come forward, but I don't know what it is right now. They haven't gotten there yet. They are having, is Mia in the room? They are going to be meeting, I think, in July, and then having a broader discussion where they bring everybody together in September, which will be right around the same time that we are going through the trim process. So you still won't receive any dollars and cents recommendation from that group by the time we finish trim. What will happen, though, is we will gather all of that information, synthesize it, see what the dollars are going to be, and we will bring that back to you. That will probably be a request for some kind of fund balance, at least for year one out of whatever that's going to be. So that is not a part of this because they aren't there yet. We don't have that information for you yet. What else? The recommendation about the convening. Our recommendation can change. That's certainly at the pleasure of this board. So I don't know that, I'm sure Nancy, as our board liaison for this initiative, will be able to share more with you all about what she sees from her perspective. But whatever the pleasure of the board is, staff felt that the Family Resource Centers was the perfect place to be a partner in this work with Family Promise and the others that are working with these families. So I'll end with that.
Dr. Hart?
I want to thank Lee Pinkeson for carrying some water for this notion that we have to do something on behalf of the unhoused children in the community. And I thought I was going to make remarks after Christy made her report about the convening that we had, which was a significant effort on the part of the staff of the trust and a bunch of people in the community who participated. So I'm a little, like him, I'm a little bit, perplexed as to why we would be voting on, this proposed budget without finishing that discussion. And I think what I'm hearing Marcia say that if there's any money to be spent for those things, it needs to come out of our unspent funds. And I'm a little nervous about that. So, I sort of wish we didn't have to take this board action until we finish those other items on the agenda.
Well, right, the update that you were going to receive was literally a draft of what we wanted to bring to you all. That meeting just took place. So we were not ready to bring any kind of dollar amount to this meeting for you to vote on to be included in our budget. If you all will remember, this is our preliminary budget. We're going to come back to you again in August, right? With any revisions, with any updates, if anything has changed. We should now have our official tax evaluation from the property appraiser's office, which we didn't have when we started this process. So you'll see some slightly different numbers at our August meeting, and we would then be able to go through with you all any additional dollar amounts that need to be included. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think that was it.
So I think I'm really tired because I attended the workshop and I spent a little bit of brain power on that, but I'm kind of wondering what's the point of this board action on the proposed budget if we know it's a draft? Why are we doing it?
Because, well, law says we have to have a preliminary budget
By what
by
date?
June 30th. So we have to have a preliminary budget. And for the most part, this is our budget. So it's not as if we're coming to you without our budget. What we tried to do is bring to you what you asked for, which is what would our recommendations be specifically for the evictions, holding that convening, which we just were able to have, last week? So that's hot off the presses, but certainly we have to do our due diligence if we're going to include dollars and cents and be able to talk to our partners. So what you're seeing before you is our best effort for a proposed budget based on all the information we have in this moment.
So, Ms. Kiner, do you want me to say what I would like to say concerning
Yes, ma'am.
this now, or should I wait until Kristen's
Well,
had it to made her?
I'm sorry, your fellow board member kind of jumped all over the place.
And I'm
But-
grateful
so-
he did.
I was gonna say-
Because I feel uncomfortable right now.
Might as well.
Oh, that's what is the will of the board? Christy could go ahead and share her her presentation if that will be helpful.
I'm comfortable moving this later in the agenda and move to the other items. Is that what we're suggesting for further context? Molly?
I just wanted to say that, of course, just as we had discussed earlier, maybe it is bridging between the workshop and this meeting, that this is the best effort of, it's not all of the funds that the trust has, and there are items that, at the pleasure of the board, that you have the authority to distinguish and to allocate for all strategic initiatives. This is just, again, our best efforts at this moment, utilizing like the policies, our expected expenditures and projected revenues, and holding that postural balance. However, again, at the pleasure of the board at any time, you all are allowed to and have the authority to make decisions about spending for whatever strategic priorities you feel are necessary.
And just a quick reminder for benefit of everybody in the room, after our commitment to Alachua County Reads from available fund balance, what is our now available fund balance roughly?
So at that juncture, if we're going to, considering the 550, is that what we're, that discussion in that there, then our approximately unassigned fund balance, by that point, the projection would be set around $722,000.
That's helpful. I just think that's helpful
Yeah, no,
context.
that's the projected, would be projected year end for fiscal year
Okay,
27.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a note, when we do get ready to vote, you have to pass the millage first and then the budget. And I don't think we've mentioned the millage.
Okay, so may we table item 11, the proposed budget, and go forward with the millage and other items on the agenda? Is that okay with everybody?
You can do the millage, you can't do the budget.
I'm so sorry. So we will change our numbers to,
13 is tentative budget.
Madam Chair, since I screwed everything up, I'm gonna help you out here. I would move that we approve resolution number 2026-04, proposed millage rate at .4500. 4500.
The note, as always, statutorily, I can't vote on that, so.
all in favor of that
Roll call.
comment?
That's how they always did it since the judge.
Oh, it was muted? Yes. If you'll please cast your vote. Member Certain,
Aye.
Chair Chance,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cornell, Member Dr. Hart's online, Honorable Judge Pena,
Abstain.
abstained, Treasurer Pinkeson,
Aye.
and Member Walker. Thank you.
Okay, then resolution 2026-04, proposed millage rate passes. And now we will move on to number 13. Cannot do 13 yet. All right.
Another presentation.
Are we moving on to CQI, to number 14, or to number 15? I'm going to say,
Ability to make that decision.
since it's the topic that brought us here, that we go to number 15, family eviction and housing stability convening. Christy, the floor is yours.
Hot topic now. It wasn't going to be that hot topic, but I'm happy to do it. So what I intend to do for the presentation today is to really walk you through, give you an overview of the discussion points, the key findings, and the recommendations. After the recommendations, as we just heard, I will pass it over to Dr. Hart, who is going to provide more insight, additional information about, as our board representative of this convening, what her recommendations will be. Let's see if I can figure, oh, that was easy, thank you. And so Marcia talked a little bit about the convening earlier today. We had moderators Frank Wells as well as Tracy Blue from Bright Community Trust. There were a variety of community organizations present at the convening. We had organizations such as our Family Resource Centers here in Gainesville, as well as our rural Family Resource Centers. We had school district representatives, county social service, Family Promise, as well as county and city of Gainesville commission. It really was a full house, and the time was well spent. Our facilitators were able to set the tone, ensure the discussion was solution-based and focused on systems and not just individual organizations and what they felt like they need, but what could improve the system for our families and those looking for support. We wanted to understand the challenges, the gaps, and develop those actionable solutions and report back to this board for the final recommendations. You'll notice on your staff report that I didn't make a very specific recommendation. The question was, what is the action of the board? Well, to discuss it and to determine where do we want these funds to come from. Marcia and I did that intentionally so that the board can make a decision about, do we want to take this back to the city, take this back to the county, and maybe not necessarily pull it from our budget. So you all absolutely have the, we left that open for you all to discuss. We did provide guided discussion points to those who were present. We wanted to see what the resources were, what's currently available, what's effective, where are the gaps in our county, and the communities that, or populations that are underserved. The guided questions also led to discussions around strategies that could prevent family eviction, as well as partnership and policy changes and that system coordination that we often discuss. So we learned a lot of things we had heard before, and then I do think there were some things that were new to us as we were discussing these items. What we know is that jobs paying $15 to $17 an hour cannot cover current housing costs. We also know that there are families successfully securing jobs earning $25 an hour, but when you have children and when you secure that type of job, you lose your benefits. And that's what the committee called the benefits cliff. And so now you're back in the same situation where you have those financial insecurities. The eviction record impact is significant. Once you have that on your record, you can't apply for subsidized housing. And so that was a critical challenge that was mentioned as well. We also have other items such as move-in costs, application barriers, late fee traps, and then substandard housing conditions that were discussed as well. We went on to talk about service gaps, and you all do have supporting documentation in your packet, as I am not going through every bullet point, but you do have that information in your packet. For service gaps, insufficient case management. So many of our local providers lack adequate case management to provide stability support. And then when we think about expanding staff, it requires funding for the entire organization, which means if you're going to increase case management, you have to be able to support that with supervision. So that was a service gap that was discussed. Limited rental assistance, meaning most of our programs here in our county, it's a one-time support opportunity. And if you are struggling with your rent and your utilities this month, most likely you may need that support again. And so that was a service gap that was identified during the convening. We also have things such as rural transportation needs. Thankfully, the trust has expanded family resource centers to our rural areas, but there's still a lot of resources that are located here in Gainesville, and there is a rural transportation issue. We talked a little bit about childcare availability and affordability, especially if you're making 15 to 17, you identify a job where it pays you more. Childcare is still $1,200 to $1,500 a month. We also talked about long-term intervention funding for service gaps and what it really takes to pull someone out of poverty, right? Are we just putting a Band-Aid on what's happening, or are we trying to lift them out of generational poverty? As well as the capacity of providers to meet the growing demand for support and services for families. There are many key findings that were discussed during this convening. I won't touch on all of them, but I'll just mention just a few. The first one, continuing regular cross-sector convening on family housing convening. We have some great organizations here that are meeting. We have the Continuum of Care through the task force, who we like to think as the lead for this discussion. We have this great committee that Dr. Hart also is leading with the individuals that participate on that call. And so really finding out how to make sure everyone is convening. We're not working in silos, and everyone understands what's available, who's who's managing the funding, who's managing that process to ensure that everyone who comes in contact with the family has access to this information. Exploring, I thought this was a really good one that I hadn't thought about. So exploring early and more flexible eviction prevention funding, meaning if a family needs support, let's not wait until they receive that eviction. If they have a 3-day notice, a 30-day notice that this is going to happen, let's help them now and let's not wait until they have an eviction on their record. I know there's lots to talk about, so I'll move on. With our recommendation, we initially started out with funding 2 case managers at Family Promise. The executive director, Rachel, was able to provide us with the cost of 2 case managers at Family Promise. And then the second recommendation was for funding for the Family Resource Centers to expand support for emergency needs. That looks like many different things, right? It doesn't necessarily mean we need to provide all the funding to one organization. We could have family eviction navigators that maybe they work out of the Family Resource Center. Maybe they work for someone and they're on a rotation, similar to our current navigators. I think there are many different ways for us to implement this. I think the funding is absolutely needed because the Family Resource Centers are the hub. It's where the families are going. We don't want them to have to leave the Family Resource Center and go somewhere else if they know the family eviction navigator is going to be at SWAG or in High Springs or Waldo on specific days and specific times. The families will come if they are aware to get support. Dr. Hart, I'll turn it over to you.
I can't thank Christy enough for teaching me a whole lot about this subject. And I think you all know I've been working on this for 2 years now. And this is nothing I learned in medical school. It's all new to me. And I just want to give you a précis of what I'm seeing. I'm trying to look at it from 30,000 feet. So if you look at our budget, we've got over 10% of our programmatic funding going to the Family Resource Centers. I'm not complaining about that. I'm a huge proponent of the Family Resource Centers, but let's talk about the main thing that they do not do in this arena. They can only help about 20% of the people with housing insecurity, and those are the people who have one crisis that can be addressed, and then they're going to be back to stability. 80% of the families that are on the Family Promise waiting list cannot be helped at the Family Resource Centers because they need case management, which is creating a long-term relationship with a social worker or some other qualified professional to help them navigate the tricky system of getting from being a threat of eviction or actually evicted to housing that they can afford and sustain. So because 80% of the families that we're worried about really need this intensive case management, we go to Family Promise. Even the resource centers can do a quick bit of support, but if the family needs more, they get referred to Family Promise. And Family Promise seems to be the only game in town that offers the prolonged case management that's required. And they have a successful model. And I think Lee Scott referred to this earlier, where something like 95% of the families who finish their program manage to sustain the home that they're in. They don't become homeless and they can keep it going at least for a year. So I asked, how many families are they able to help get finished with the process in a year? And the answer I got is about 38 families a year successfully finish the program. So know that at this moment, they have more than 300 families on their waiting list, and it's only halfway through the year. There could be 700 families on their waiting list by the end of the year. And what do they need? They need staffing. Right now, they have 2 people that can do this long-term case management at Family Promise. So I recommend that we provide them 2 more social workers, but I think it would be really wise if we go to our county government and say, we need you to provide 2 more. So I asked Rachel, what would happen if we doubled your staff of case managers? And she said, and Lee said, you would be shocked how much of our wait list we could work through if we could take the burden off the few social workers that we have that are doing the intensive case management. We could take care of some of the 20% as well. So that's why I was really anxious that we not pass the budget without thinking what would it take for us to add that $118,000 or whatever it is. I'm not positive exactly what it is. And what would it take to go to our county and say, could you match that? And what if we went to our city and said, could you match that? And we have to be a little bit careful with the continuum of care, the COC, who traditionally has done this in our community, because to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. They are really good at taking care of individuals. And unless we are constantly saying, no, we're talking about families. No, we're talking about children. We are not talking about individuals. I'm afraid any money that the county provides to COC or that we provide to COC, we have to draw a little white line around that money and say, no, this is only for families. If you're not willing to spend it on families, it's going to Family Promise, and they're the only game in town. And we didn't even know how serious the problem was until St. Francis House and Arbor House closed, and Family Promise all of a sudden had these families to place. And remember that Family Promise can put them in a safe place and give them furniture and give them food, but to get them to sustain the new rent that they now have to pay is another issue altogether. Those families that only have a $17 dollar an hour job, or maybe even 2 of those jobs, may not be able to sustain that rental that they've been put in. So that's why we need these case managers. And I cannot emphasize that enough. And it's taken me a long time to understand that piece. And now that I get it, I feel like I just have to keep repeating. Families must be a priority, and they need long-term case management 80% of the time.
Dr. Hart, Ken?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Hart, thank you for leading the charge on this. I think this is another one of those all-hands-on-deck moments. It's not a Children's Trust deal. It's not a City of Gainesville deal. It's not a County Commission deal. It's not a school board deal. It's everybody's deal. I was shocked too when the superintendent told us that the amount of homeless kids she thought was actually double from the actual number, 900 to closer to 2,000. I think that the county and the city are vested in this issue. And on Thursday, I think we can make the ask. I would support this recommendation, and I would support the trust. Trust has really done the job of collaborating everyone together. That's what's in our mission. We can't fund everything, but we can certainly be that collaborator, and I think I would support that recommendation. I would obviously support it at the county as well, and I agree with Lee that, this is something that the trust does need to put guardrails around as far as we are supporting families that are suffering from homelessness or the threat of homelessness. And I think this is a new program. I do think using a provider that already has that expertise helps leverage those dollars. And so I don't know where in the budget we should put it. I think we just add it to the budget or take it out of fund balance. But I think we need to add it to the budget. And again, I'm not going to worry about November 4th until November 5th. And so we're talking about this year's budget. And so that's where I am. I support I support staff's recommendation, your work, and this whole discussion at the county level.
Thank you, Ken. So budget implication wise, what is the thought if we move forward from this? This is a.
It goes under safety.
My recommendation, I think that, and Nancy, thank you very much for all your work. There are many times when you absolutely kick butt, and these are one of them, so thank you very much. I would recommend that we write a letter to the city and the county, and that.
In addition to the 118.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that we write.
Know what you're saying.
Okay, that we ask them, number one, prioritize family homelessness. Because actually by state statute, we can't help if it's not a family or it's not a child is involved, we can't help. So specifically, it has to have that, they have to do that, or we get in trouble. The other thing is that we make a recommendation that the city and the county fund, and see what they do. Fund case managers for Family Promise, that 6, I think, is is that what you were looking for, 6, Nancy? 6 total. So
Lee, I'm with you, but if we pass it in our preliminary budget and we ask them to match us and we tell them this is our preliminary budget and this is your responsibility, this is county, this is all our responsibilities, all of ours. We're collaborating and we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we want you to match it and do it. Like,
I
you're
understand.
saying we're asking you all to do it, and we're not committing the funding to it.
Yeah, we are. We're doing the family resources, the centers. And that's a lot of money. We're providing a lot of money for the family resource centers. So it's not like we're not invested. And we're asking the county and the city to invest in that. But the thing that scares me the most is recommendation number 2, as far as the trust is concerned. Because that's where a lot of money could be spent there. So that we ask the county and the city to come up with an allocation of funding for, to expand support for emergency needs, including emergency rental assistance, because now the county, if it's the same, they'll do it one time every 2 years for.
We spent a significant amount of money for rental assistance under ARPA, and I don't know how much of that is left.
Okay. Well, we used to, before ARPA, we put money aside for that, so.
We still have some, but it's not a significant amount.
So I think, and it's the board's pleasure, but I think we are invested through the county through the resource centers. We established them, SWAG, on 16th Avenue, in Waldo, and all the, and Newberry. So it's not like we're not invested, and Hawthorne. So we put that out there and say, here's what we've done. you know, we would like you to invest in case managers as well as allocate funding for the, you know, for the emergency needs. You're on there, so how's that going to be received?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, may I? Yeah, I think from the standpoint of putting guardrails around prioritizing families, I love that. I think that is really our mission, and we can't not do that. So I think if we have a huge homeless issue, and asking the county to prioritize families is fine. But I also think that if we're going to try to go from 2 a family promise to 8, meaning 2, 2, and 2, or 6 more, we're basically saying that this community is dealing with this crisis, and the Children's Trust is putting not only the collaborative time and effort, but they're putting money into it. And I think I'm comfortable as a board member of the trust putting that money, because I think the county is going to spend significantly more than $118,000 to address this issue. This is a piece of a much larger issue that the county is going to need to fund.
I could be talked into the fund managers. Part number 2, I will have trouble voting for.
Can you specify exactly what you're referring to as number 2?
Yes.
Just to make sure that-
Yes, Christie?
Recommendation 2 is a request to the county to support more Family Resource Center services, emergency services for families facing eviction.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, obviously, and one of my things that I'm happy to see is that the recommendations, this is all a timing issue. It's when the services and the assistance are available for these folks. And sometimes even funds that are expended at the wrong time are wasted. So I think it's essential that whatever funds are eventually allocated for this, and I would tell Dr. Hart that I'd be happy to at least participate in any way I can in regards to structuring this in a way that actually makes sense. Not that this doesn't, but just that it makes sense in regards to cases as they progress through the system. Obviously, you want to catch it before the eviction is filed, but if the eviction is filed and/or the 3-day notice is filed, we have to be assured that whatever process is in place, number one, that the individuals know where they need to go. So I don't know, do we use 211 services here at all in our county, the number? Okay. So I would imagine that that number would refer folks in this predicament to where they need to go. Is that right? Is that fair? Okay. So then the next step is, if they reach them, how quickly can a decision be made in terms of the assistance that they're going to get? And then second to that is, what ties do we make with that assistance? Meaning, we've given you assistance, but we now want to educate you in terms of moving forward. And I know I'm new, you all have been doing this for a while, but 38 cases for a year sounds incredibly small, right? And I don't know what happens in that full year. You all may know. I don't know. But the major issue from a court's perspective, and really from my perspective, a children's issue, is the emergent situation. How do we prevent that child from being out of a home that affects every aspect of their life, including criminal courts, schooling, health, everything else? So that's the core issue, is right at that moment, right before it happens or right after it happens. How do we do that? And so I'm probably just throwing out some thoughts, but at some point, again, to know what to fund, I think we need to know what happens in a year's time that you were suggesting that is needed for these case managers to work. That seems like an awful long time as well, to fund, rather than dealing with emergent situations.
Thank you. Have some of the same concerns that Judge Pena, and I could see, I'm following Lee and Member Cornell, but my question was, we are spending like $1.7 million. I just added it up. I think I brought it up at the Finance Committee meeting on Family Resource Centers. But what my question was, if the request is to fund 2 case managers, and Dr. Hart, you were saying to get to 6 or 8, I'm trying to clear that up. But I'm wondering if we get these additional staff people, social workers, right, and we're funding them, are there resources available, a couple questions, to help the families if they're gonna be, if they're gonna work the wait list? Are there resources available in our community or nationally or whatever that these two people that we're gonna fund, at it's $60,000 almost, right? That they're gonna be able to connect families? So that's my first question. And then back up in the presentation where Christy said that if you get evicted, you're not able to apply for subsidized housing. Like, is there something that was, as part of this convening, would they, like, look at changing that? Because if you got a needy population, if anybody needs anything, and you're gonna, we've already established $15 to $17 an hour, they've established that's not sufficient income to sustain a place. And so you've got people that's homeless, if you're gonna tell them they get evicted, they can't apply for subsidized housing. It's like we're on this wheel here, then where are they going to, the social worker's gonna connect them with housing that they'll be able to sustain, that we're not just putting money into a fire that's gonna be burned up. So I don't know, right now I'm just trying to, what I'm gonna say is that if we fund this, we know that these two people that have these positions won't be homeless. But is that gonna do for anybody else other than them? You know, we gotta make sure that what we're doing is going to really reach out other than the people that are the job that'll be funded. You know.
So I'm not,
Please introduce yourself.
can you hear me? Good, okay. So I'm not sure where the number 38 in an entire year came from. Currently, we have 38 families in program. I'm thinking that those numbers got crossed somehow. Last year, we successfully assisted 155 families with 175 individuals. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, so currently. Yeah, currently in program. Also, the case managers on our staff, most of them have lived experience or have been doing this work for many years. And so we are very aware and familiar with all of the resources that are available across all 7 counties that we serve. So it wouldn't just be making sure that they had, you know, a job and that we weren't actually able to assist the families. The goal is always to get the families into a situation where they will be able to afford housing, whether that be like subsidized housing, whether that be one of our other programs where, one of our programs is stabilization funding, where we pay a portion of the rent and the moms pay a portion of the rent because they can't, most moms, single moms, cannot afford $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 rent. So a lot of those times we'll pay $900, let's say it's $1,800, we'll pay, you know, $900 and they'll pay $900. And that has been a super successful program as well.
Thank you for that. So you have a pot of money where, access to a pot of funding that you can provide rental assistance for extended period of time, more than once or twice?
So that pot that I just, that was a grant that we received last year. So we're hoping, you know, to stretch it out and make it last for a couple of years until we can apply for it again. But we also get money through the continuum of care for rapid rehousing, prevention, all the different programs, and we also have permanent supportive housing. So there is other income that is coming in that we are able to help families with while we're case managing them.
And you mentioned 7 counties. Do you all have the capacity to just restrict the funding or any resources you get from us to just Alachua County?
Yes, absolutely. And we're aware of the hotspots, Micanopy, Hawthorne, those areas. So yes, we can do that.
Quick question. So what happens in that 1 year period of time? What is going on with the family? What services are you providing during that time frame?
Absolutely. We're connecting them to any resources that we possibly can. Case managers do home visits in their homes once a month with them. We do walkthroughs of the apartments just to make sure that everything is working properly, that it's being taken care of. That is how we establish relationships with landlords as well, by letting them know, like, hey, we're making sure that your unit is not being destroyed, and if something is wrong, we'll bring it to your attention immediately. We are meeting with the families on the phone or email or text or something at least once a week. So we're keeping case notes 4 times a month on each family. We try to figure out what their strengths are and try to help them increase their income in that specific field or career. A lot of times if they don't have a GED, we'll try to connect them to that first because that's really where it starts. And then we will try to get them into CNA courses or phlebotomy courses, or we just met with Santa Fe not that long ago to learn about all of their career and technical certificates and things like that. So the goal is always to get them in and get them into a situation where they're either making enough to sustain, or we get them into a subsidized housing where it will match their income.
So the year timeframe is just sort of arbitrary. It's not like a defined year period of time.
No, so
It seems to me that you can accomplish those goals sooner than that and then move on to the next family that's in
Yeah.
emergent situation.
So every case is different. Some families might take the whole year, but then we have families who come in who are super motivated and, almost there. And so we only have to case manage them for 3 to 6 months. So it can go all the way up to 2 years. We do not do anything longer than 2 years, but it's guided to which each specific family needs.
But in response to Member Certan's point, though, you believe additional case workers, there are places and things available?
Absolutely. Yeah, right now, we don't answer the phones because it was so overwhelming and I only have 2 case managers. So that would, lighten up that load where we could start answering the phones, because regardless if we have the money right now for services, when people are calling and not even getting somebody on the other line, that is super stressful and hard for them. So if I can get somebody to begin answering the phones and start reaching out from our virtual intake, because sometimes maybe it's something that we can fix without having housing dollars as well. Maybe it's just they needed access to childcare, or they needed connection to a job placement or something like that. So if I could have people designated to help those folks, especially now that St. Francis House has closed down and there's nowhere else for them to go, I think that it would be a game changer.
Part of what their restriction would be, and I'm going off of old knowledge of Family Promise, but they are a subcontractor to the coalition, yeah?
Yes, the COC.
Okay, and so that part of their funding, I don't know what percentage, but part of their funding is based on whatever they're allocated, and sometimes that comes months late. So they are struggling with, or as most of our providers are, struggling with not getting their funding in time, but they still need to perform a service, and so they're just juggling how to pay and what to pay. So I think even though they have a grant, they also have a subcontract with the department, which is not always the same. It's not, it's reliable in that it usually comes every year, but the amount is not the same, if I remember correctly. And so I think a steady amount that they could count on, that could also be included in your next grant or your next application to kind of supplement, couldn't think of another word, supplement their salary at some point if that was something they could work out. Long story short, I think that it would be, they've been around for a really long time, not just in this area, but done some really good work. And those numbers used to be high, a little higher. So I don't know if it's just because of maybe
The economy.
being able to keep staff and everything, but so they do offer a lot of services. I think it would be a good investment and something that they could use to build on with their applications and such going forward. My 2 cents.
Thank you for that.
I think you ended right where I was gonna start again, which is an investment. Preventative is always cheaper than dealing with it after the fact. I think Dr. Hart has spoken on that numerous times. I'm gonna put a motion on the floor, see if it gets a second, which is basically a modification of the recommendation. It's a three-part motion. One, move, Part 1, fund 2 case managers of Family Promise for 118 annually, which will only service families. Add this funding to the preliminary budget. 2, request of the Board of County Commissioners in each of the municipalities where family resources are currently located, allocate additional funding for family resource centers to expand support for emergency needs, including emergency rental assistance for eviction prevention. And Part 3, we request that the city and the county, City of Gainesville and the County Commission match the CTAC case manager funding. That's my motion.
I got it.
Recommendation with the recommendations of essentially that we're requesting that each of the places where family resource centers are and the county, that they increase resources, what Christie said. Also that they match us and that we add it to our preliminary budget.
Second.
I would ask that you do one more part and just offer to house the case managers at any and all the resource centers.
So that's a question for Rachel. So,
But he did say offer.
yeah, so if you received 4 or 6 additional funding for 4 or 6 additional case managers, would you co-locate them at the resource centers, or would they be located in your facilities and be connected to the director of the resource centers?
So I think if we just started out with 2, that I would feel more comfortable with them being at our office, just so that we can handle the overload that we have already. A lot of times, the resource centers are calling us and emailing us anyways, because they need funding for housing. If we had more than 2 case managers, and that's definitely something that I'm willing to explore, but with just 2 more, I would need them to be at the office.
And so, Lee, I think it's a good thought if in fact the need existed, say, in Hawthorne, certainly for a period of time, maybe, right? You know,
Yes.
before school started. But I would want to leave that to Family Promise to manage with regards to the best use of resources. You know, if they're out there, great, but they're probably, I'm looking to hopefully add capacity, this is a capacity issue, add capacity to an organization that can move from 180 to, you know, maybe 400 or even more right now when we have this greater need than I realized from the point and count.
Okay, so do your motion again, please.
Okay, so I'll go.
Alachua in the first part.
Okay, so 1 is to fund 2 case managers at Family Promise for $118,000 annually, which will only service families in Alachua County, and add this funding to the preliminary budget. Part 2 is what Christie said, just adding some words. Request that the board and each of the municipalities where family resources are located allocate additional funding. So we're requesting that the Board of County Commissioners and the municipalities where there's resource centers, that they add additional resources to those family resource centers. So we're going to send them a letter saying, we've convened, we're doing this, we want you to do this. That was what the recommendation I thought was. And then part 3, ask them to put their money where where we're putting our money where our mouth is, which is we request that the City of Gainesville and the county match the Children's Trust case manager funding with also 2 additional case managers.
So why don't you make that as part of your first one, just say, fund 2 case managers and request that the county and the city do the same.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
That way it's
Nice and
all right
succinct.
there.
Yeah, okay. The part,
frustrated.
yeah, I'll give her the writing. It'll be fine. But yeah, what you just said. So part 1 will be fund 2 case managers at Family Promise annually, which will only service families. Add this funding to our preliminary budget and request that the city and county match CTAC's case manager funding.
May I make a comment, Madam Chair?
After you second it.
Did anybody second it? The only thing that I think that as far as funding case managers, that we ought to be third in the priority, that the city, the county ought to do it first, and that we do it last, simply from the standpoint of where we are financially and what we have. I know that we heard that Family Promise wants to use it, their facility, but if they add more, then they're gonna need assistance, it sounds like. And we have made a major investment. You know, it's nothing to sneeze at, based upon our budget as opposed to the city or the counties. You know, it's astronomical as far as a percentage. So, yes, we can fund it, but I would much rather see if the city and the county will do it first.
Add something to my motion, that we commit to this for the first year. See how it goes. Because I think this is a growing problem that is a county responsibility. But I think we are
Right,
taking
and
the
that's why I'm saying
initiative.
the
I think we're
county.
taking the initiative, though, based on Dr. Hart's efforts to coordinate and bring everybody together and kick this off. But I agree with you in that our budget is a lot tighter than everyone else's, although on the 5th, I may be coming back to you saying that the county's budget is worse off than everybody else's. So,
May be worse off, but so will ours.
yeah. Yeah, well, 3 million and 48 million are different, but the budgets are different. But you're right, as a percentage, they're probably just as bad. And so I think it's our responsibility to recognize this need that Dr. Hart has been talking to us about for 2 years. I think when it comes to servicing those in our community with the greatest need, there is no greater need than a homeless child. And so this is in line, really should be, in my opinion, almost probably at the top of our priorities. And I think it's important that we get this started. I don't know if it's something that we can do countywide. I think it's something that we got to kick off as a board.
Pena?
Yes, I don't want to micromanage, but this is really important to me, obviously. Could you just come up just for a second? I heard you say one thing that concerns me greatly, and that is that because of the shortage, you weren't even answering, not you personally, but you weren't even answering the phone.
Right.
So my concern is, I can't tell you how many cases, and you know this, but there'd be no monetary expenditure if you answered the phone and you actually advised them on how to cure the issue. There's a lot of non-monetary curable violations that occur. So I'm more than happy with the funding and all that kind of good stuff and how it's dealt with the city and the county. I'll rely on these two experts here. Maybe they're micromanaging, but I would like to see that one of those individuals, case managers, is specifically dedicated to actually answering the phone.
Yes, absolutely.
And so they can address these issues that would cost zero.
Yes.
And save that family from being out on the street.
Absolutely. And so we just started something called Resource Navigation Thursdays, where families who are signing up on our virtual intake are being reached out to immediately by Lee, but he's one person, and there's over 300 and something families. So that's definitely one of my major goals. I have lived experience of being homeless, and I know what it's like to be on the other end of that phone and nobody answers. So that's why that is so important for me as well.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
So what was the modification you were willing to put in there? To initially seed this issue, the trust will fund 2 case managers for the first year?
My perspective, I would look at Family Promise, their numbers. We know what their numbers are. We see if by funding 2 more navigators, we can supercharge their capacity and see what the county and the city do. I mean, the issue doesn't go away if we don't fund it. It actually becomes more expensive from a county perspective. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Do we have any other comments from the public? Are we ready to call the question? All in favor, and Katora, are you comfortable that you have the essence? Okay. All in favor of the motion before us regarding helping to support concerns of family eviction and housing stability, say aye. Any opposed?
What was number 3 about supporting
I
the?
combined it with one. I just combined it with one. I combined it with one, which is basically two requests that the city and the county match.
So wasn't anything that addressed number 2 there?
Number 2 was to request that the county and the cities where resource centers exist allocate additional funds to resource centers. Not the trust, but that's what Christie said. That's basically clarifying Christie's recommendation, that this is a request to cities and counties that they also put money into family resource centers, because right now the trust is basically, to Lee's point, carrying the.
Would this additional funding be to meet the needs, not like for staffing? Because I thought we were already paying the personnel costs and things of that. Would it be for emergency rental assistance? I'm good with it now. That's fine.
Okay, so we have taken care of number 15. Thank you for the
Good
discussion.
job, Ms. Chair. You did great.
The time is 6:05, and are we going back to number 11? And by the way, can I just say, Bonnie, I don't know why we do this to you so often, but
Well, Madam Chair, we'll make it real quick. I propose that we approve Resolution 2026-05, the tentative budget.
Second.
we have a motion and a second.
Can we do that? Because we just added 118,000 to it.
It still comes under that category.
Oh, okay.
With that,
With that.
right, with that addition.
Okay, any discussion from the board on the motion before you? Any comments from the public on the budget motion before you? Thank you for hanging in there. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a budget. Thank you so much.
Tentative budget.
Tentative budget.
Yes.
Now, do we move to number 14? CQI quality, continuous quality improvement, recommendation for underperforming contracts with Bonnie Wagner. Thank you, Bonnie, for your patience.
No worries. So the board made a motion during the March 2026 CQI presentation for staff to propose a recommendation concerning underperforming contracts, and particularly those that have emerging ratings. The purpose of CQI is to systematically review and reflect on program performance, learning and problem solving, and to improve processes, delivery, and impact of services. CQI does bring our attention to programs in need of support and interventions to help improve program performance. I included the recommendation in the board packet. Does the board have any questions or feedback?
I'm sorry.
Opinion?
Thank you.
Tab 14, okay.
It's just one time per year that the CQI report is provided.
We do ongoing work with the providers, performance reviews, contract negotiations, meetings, and whatnot. The CQI report is done on a yearly basis, and it looks at the contracted goals and expectations.
Agreement to do that only after the CQI comes out?
Really, at any point in time in practice, if we see things aren't going, as expected, we work with our programs to improve them. But yes, specifically when we see that during CQI something comes up as an emerging area that we would want to more intentionally support those providers. And then the bullets in there kind of showed different ways that supports are offered or interventions, and wanting to work to get them to provide the best services.
That was my only concern, that if you have a new provider, that we don't wait a year to have the CQI come out. If something's not going well, but I guess there's a relationship between the CQI.
Yeah, usually with the invoicing, which can be monthly for most contracts, is when we'll review how things are going as well.
So, I want to circle back to something that I heard in the workshop, about the social emotional learning. Is that part of CQI with the students? That's a concern for me.
For some programs, there's social emotional skills development or youth development assessments and surveys that are done with the youth. In each of those contracts, we look to see that youth either maintain where they are or improve, so it's not expecting them to always get better. At certain points, we want them to maintain where they are or improve, but the goal is to not see declines.
What if students do regress?
Well, there's a target for that. I believe in the after-school contract specifically, it's 70% we want to see maintain or improve. So wanting to see the majority are maintaining where they were or moving in a better direction. But there is some room where, yeah, life will happen. Some kids will regress, and that we hope to see no more than 30% of kids have that occur. Of course, with any, that's again, the idea behind CQI is that we gather the data, we collect it, we're learning, we're problem solving. If we see that, the data isn't coming in the way we want or we expect or we hope to see for our kids, then we try to recalibrate and work with the providers to maybe find a better tool or measure to learn about the outcome or improve.
Is after school the only space where we're looking at that?
No.
Is that the only type of contract?
That's not the only type of measure for after school. It's not part of their CQI, but we do look at academic gains for the providers that said that was something that they wanted, that they have as a program component.
I'm talking about social, emotional, the SES is the after-school contract the only one that's looking at that? Is there another contract where we may have some mental health supports or something that we're looking at that?
I don't know all of them offhand. I know our mentoring did have that. I think some of our other programs do too. I'd have to look through the list again. But there's definitely programs that measure youth development beyond after school.
I would say it's programs outside of after school that that's part of their scope. They're really working on specific skills, and so when we work with them to develop their measures, it's based on the programming that they're doing. It's not something that we would measure for somebody who isn't doing that explicitly.
Okay.
Madam Chair? Yes. Because I was the one who asked for this, and it was basically because when we got the CQI reports, we were given a history, of how the different organizations are doing. And you would think that if an organization gets an emerging, that it goes to, I don't remember the other two classifications, master and
Advancing and then mastering.
okay, that they would go from, emerging to the next and hopefully get to the final, the mastering. But there were some organizations where it was emerging, and it didn't seem like they were making progress. And I heard what Christy Arrington said earlier today about, wasn't supposed to use it as a tool. Have to be able to give us the information that we're looking for, because that's what we're trying to do so that we can tell the public what's happening. And so if we're not getting that and the people aren't doing what we're asking, then there's an issue. So, the thought was that it gives staff the flexibility to, to address the situation if it's not improving. That was the thought process.
Learn if there are extenuating circumstances.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
what
that's essentially what they're saying, and.
I read also.
And to Tina's point, I wanted to say that providers are given the opportunity to tell the story in their reflection. So if it's something where we saw a decline in SEL, they are able to say, oh, well, this, especially in summer convenience, we talked about it, well, this particular child was going through this. So they have the opportunity to be able to tell the story behind it. So it's not like we just use that and go off that alone without having a conversation with them. And also to Lee's point, when we are looking at a provider that has continuously moved into emerging, that is also considered in their contract for renewal. So they may have different check-ins. They may have check-ins every month. They may have check-ins quarterly. So all of that plays into what goes into their contract for the upcoming year.
Very brief, that was my question, is because of the way that it's written, it seems to indicate that the only time you're going to get a rating is once the actual report is issued, the CQI report is issued. Therefore, if you don't get a rating at the mid-year, the way that I read this is you can't go into these issues of addressing the underperformance.
Well,
Be tied to the.
Well,
to
for
the
CQI. For CQI, yes, but if we have a new provider and they haven't been rated for CQI, we check where they are. When they do their invoicing, there's a monthly report, there's a data reporting. So in the first quarter, we can tell how it's going. So we can tell, okay, you're underperforming in this area, and then we will go ahead and have a check-in and say, okay, we need to adjust, there's something that needs to be done. This was just to address what we do for emerging providers with CQI. However, if it's a new provider, we are tracking that, and we are able to step in and provide the same thing that you would see for an emerging provider.
But the report is only once. The full report is only once a year. It's an annual report. But that doesn't mean that's the only time they're assessed or that we're making contact. We're doing site visits all along throughout the year. So they are in, I would venture to say, constant contact with us throughout the year.
But contract termination, if it gets to that point, can only be after the CQI is issued? Because that's not the way it seems to read. No. But
No.
any evaluation point, if there's a point where it's
Correct.
not appropriate to move forward,
We could bring it back to you that our recommendation is to end this contract now. And that's verbiage that is in all of our contracts. We could end a contract at any time.
We have a motion? Second. Any discussion from the board? Comments from the public? We have providers here, any? I wore them down. Okay, we have the motion before us on accepting the CQI procedure for addressing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Right, the board meeting. Right, okay. Yes. We do have items 16 through 19, a lot of important information that I'll call to your attention to review if you haven't had a chance to already, board members. And now we have our final opportunity for any public comments. Any further comments? Here we go. I saw he was still smiling too, this late in the day. So that was
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Vincent Miller. I am the new Executive Director at AIM. So first of all, thank you for everything that the Trust have done for our program this year and years prior to. I am up here just as somebody new to the community, and I truly believe in community partnership. As Joyce Epstein would say, someone who is a guru in education and community partnership, students only grow because of the growth of our community partnerships. With that being said, I don't know much about anything, to be very honest, yet, because I am onboarding. But what I do know by looking at our data that we have a partnership with Peak. And they have been a strong partner over the years with AIM. And this year, as I came in, I have learned that we have given over 2,000 training sessions with our students for ELA and literacy. And as you know, coming from Polk County, I have looked at some of the data here in the county, and literacy for our Black and brown students is the lowest. But also, I also know that consistency is also important for our Black and brown students and students in general. And they have been a consistent force for raising our data this year. And I think we're one of the strongest data points over the last year since we have used them. Our students, all of our students, 100% of our students have seen increases in their reading scores in ELA, which is outstanding. As an educator, both on the college level, as a principal from Polk County, to see Black and brown students move almost 20 and 30% in their reading in ELA over the years, it's just very astounding. So I want to commend them for everything they're doing. We have a 100% graduation rate, 100% placement rate in college. I mean, we can't do that without community partnership. So I just wanted to get up here and say, I truly believe in the work that you guys are doing as a board. I truly believe in the work that as our partners, that I'm coming in to learn what everybody is doing in my space at AIM. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Thank you for your positive energy at the end of the afternoon, and welcome to Alachua County. Any other general public comments? Board member comments?
I'll miss you all on Thursday, so if I have anything else, I'll email it to Marshall, but our association meeting.
So, Bob, if the tax initiative passes and we decide to do the rollback rate, could that result in an actual increase in millage under the rollback rate? Because isn't the rollback rate the same amount of taxes collected as the prior year?
Not a mathematician, but the rollback rate is going to basically, I don't know.
It's a question discussed at FAC, and the conclusion of the lawyers and the accountants was that a rollback rate could result in an increase in millage. So check into it. We'll chat about it later. I'm asking questions. I got questions.
Thank you. So, yes.
I think we do have someone from the public
Oh,
that did
please,
want
I'm so
to
sorry if I didn't see you
speak.
on.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you all for all that you do. My name is Philip Simmons. I'm the Vice President for Goodwill Industries of North Florida and the lead agency for just facilitating Teamworks Alachua with you all. So earlier in the emergency meeting, we have a handout. Hopefully you still have it. If you knew, I think we have any additional ones for anyone that don't have it. Definitely want to make sure you have it. But basically, just coming to say thank you for everything you all have done and just the partnership we have together. As the doctor from AIM mentioned, partnership is what allows us to make sure our students continue to grow. We have had TWA since 2022, filled over 900 summer internship programs. 98% of the work sites throughout the years, we have gotten satisfaction in exceeding the performance measures of the work that we do with our students. If we jump down to grant funding, I know funding is very important, and times like this is very touchy. So wanted to show just the partnership of what you all bring to us to allow us to facilitate the program, as well as what Goodwill brings. So over the years, just $166,750 in grant funding has been utilized, and we continue to look for other opportunities. And this year alone, we have a pledge of $50,000 coming from AT&T. So we're excited that will allow us to continue to increase the number of students that we can serve in this summer in the internship program. Along that lines, we have also applied for, as you all know, you don't always get grants that get approved. We have applied for over $515,000 for grant funding that was not awarded. However, we are continuously, and our fund development office is continuously looking for opportunities to continue to bring in more money. Some of Goodwill's direct contribution included roughly $108,000 beyond the budgeted costs, plus the projected $40,000 that we will see saving in the budget by reducing our administrative fee. I'm sorry, yes ma'am, by reducing that administrative fee from 10% to 5%. So throughout the entire time, we'll just continue to increase our experience in making sure our TWA staff, students, and job coaches have the success that they need. If you all are free tomorrow, and Tuesday and Wednesday is our onboarding for our summer program. So we're excited about the 305 students that will be getting an internship this session. So thank you all so much, and we just look to continue our partnership. Sorry.
Yeah, could I? Thank you for your comments. I had the distinct opportunity 2 Saturdays ago to attend the Santa Fe Gala, which was their 60th anniversary. And they talked about placing many of their young students into jobs, local jobs. And I brought up to the president our TeamWorks program and our partnership with Goodwill and how amazing you all were and the Children's Trust was. And I'm going to use this opportunity to ask you to connect with President Brody at Santa Fe. He is very interested in getting the names of those 300 kids that we are helping, and seeing how Santa Fe College could be an opportunity for those that would like to continue their education and maybe enter into a tradeship program.
Definitely, and I know that we just executed an MOU with Santa Fe. So that partnership, Marla as well as Charday, our program manager here, is already.
You're way ahead of me then. Okay, great, thank you. Thank
Might
you.
be a great place for your end of the summer celebration to.
I think they already have I think you all already have the location for that. But I believe 2 years ago, we placed maybe 8 or 9 students at Santa Fe, and one was in the president's office. And that student went around with the president all summer. So that went really, really well.
I hear it's about the same this year as well.
Okay.
And we commented earlier in the meeting that we appreciate the mix of funding, seeking business and philanthropy. Thank you so much. So my last comment, 2 things. The important joint board meeting with the Alachua County Commission this Thursday at 4 at the Grace Knight Conference Room in the county administration offices. And last, I just want to say, being suddenly, let's see, the extended regular session just ended, right? A week ago, and learning then that this special session was convening on Monday. It was not most likely on Marcia's bingo card that, you would be hopping quickly and having to go to Tallahassee. And not just the being pulled off of what was already, I'm sure, a big to-do list, but just the emotional kind of sucking the air out of your wind. And I appreciate the energy of leadership and the attention to staff and the calm leadership through this time. I know it will continue. I'm sure it echoes at other places in government, but we're here for the long haul. So just appreciate you staying on point, and this was not an easy board meeting to get ready for you and your team, even if you had those days last week. So thank you. All right, so yes, it is 6:28. Great job. And the meeting, and there is no meeting in July, so enjoy your, we'll see you Thursday, and then